Hey everyone, this is Laura Gadenik with Laura Gadenik Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the weeks of December 13th through the 26th, 2021. So today, Monday the 13th, we have Mercury moving into Capricorn and Mars heading into Sagittarius. So Mercury going into Capricorn now will be joining Venus and Pluto, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Venus is currently conjoined to Pluto, but Mercury is going to catch up to the pair and conjoin Venus and Pluto on December 29th and 30th. And so Mercury is a planet of conversations, it's a planet of the mind, of thoughts, of communications, of messages. So, and you know, when Mercury joins other planets that are in aspect with one another, usually there is an element of a message coming through or a conversation exchanged regarding the nature of those planets' archetypes. So, in general, so Mercury joining Venus and Pluto might bring like an intense, maybe heavy conversation around relationships and around truth in relationships, or wanting to, put a message out there about the nature of violence in relationships, or advocating for or against domestic abuse or something like that. Venus Pluto can be very going into the dark corners of relationship dynamics and power dynamics, specifically with women and involving women, which I'll get to more in a couple minutes. But so yeah, Mercury's joining the party here in Capricorn. In general, with Mercury in Capricorn, thoughts and conversations turn a bit more serious. Capricorn is a sign that looks to the long haul, that wants to plan for the future. Yeah, so it's gonna be intense for a while, and it has been intense for a while with regards to relationships, since Venus has been near Pluto for the past several weeks. But once Mercury comes into the picture and joins the two, even a couple days leading up to the 29th and 30th, it's almost like you finally have a voice to kind of vocalize these issues, or maybe what's on your mind or what's on your heart, or and you have maybe more courage to just speak it out, speak the truth, right? Okay, and another factor to consider is, so Mercury will be retrograding in January. It'll start a retrograde in Aquarius, and it'll retrograde back into Capricorn to this same area where Venus and Pluto are conjoining. So, and I'll talk more about that in later videos, but just know that this time period, December 29th and 30th, will be revisited, basically. So, okay. So Mars going into Sagittarius. Mars is the planet of our actions, our motivations, how we go about taking action and doing things. Our actions are now motivated by inspiration, hope, and growth. Sagittarius is a Jupiter-ruled sign, planet of faith and belief and optimism. This might be a time where we are fired up more by our dreams and by our vision. You might have more of an urge for exploring, for adventure, for talking about philosophy or various religions or truths, so to speak. Mars and Sagittarius won't be tied down. It's a very freedom-loving placement for Mars. So, and this will be highlighting whatever part of your chart contains Sagittarius. So whatever house that is going to get an energy boost. You'll be inspired to go after something in that part of your life, in that part of your chart. And so there's, really Mars is bringing fire, motivation, and energy to that area of your life. So, and ultimately it's a pretty positive placement for Mars to be. I mean, we just had Mars in Scorpio, which is a very strong placement for Mars, and that part of your life, well, I actually won't go into that because that would take too long, but Mars has been strong in Scorpio, and I would say probably positive after the opposition to Uranus and square to Saturn that it made back in November. But with Mars in Sagittarius, a Jupiter-ruled sign, it's definitely more uplifting, more positive, hopeful, more visionary. So it's going to probably feel less heavy. Okay, so then Sunday, the 19th, is when Venus stations retrograde in Capricorn. She is at this point 1 degree away from Pluto, so she's basically conjoined to Pluto. So Venus's retrograde is going to last until January 29th. And Venus has been hanging out with Pluto, because as she nears the point of retrograde, she goes a lot slower. So she's been hanging out with Pluto since December 4th, and she's going to hover around within 3 degrees of Pluto until January 3rd. So this is a whole month of Venus hanging out with Pluto. And so I'm going to tell you more about what might have already been coming up, and probably has come up, and what might still come up for processing. So Pluto is a planet about life or death stakes. And Venus is a planet about relationships, love, beauty, pleasure, getting along, women, sex, intimacy. So this could definitely be bringing up what feels like life or death, like anxieties regarding relationships, and kind of maybe being unsure about the relationship you're in, or just not feeling super safe and secure in relationships. You might have obsessive compulsive tendencies or behaviors around love, relationships, or sex. Pluto rules over that which is like underneath the surface, or hidden away. It's kind of, the skeletons in the closet. So this aspect is kind of challenging us to speak hard truths, particularly in relationships or connections and partnerships with other people. So, there's going to be some deep, possibly challenging things to say. And really the challenge here, what is necessary, is to be totally honest and say what's on your heart. Pluto rules over power dynamics and control. So, power dynamics might emerge between you and a lover, or you and a partner. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be surprised if more like abuse was happening around this time. Pluto can be kind of the shadow side of Pluto is abuse and control. So issues around consent might be surfacing at this time, and issues around consent around with regards to sexuality, relationships in general. Venus is all about consent, about considering the other person, about asking, what would you like to do? Venus wants to get along and make sure everyone is content and satisfied. And so Pluto brings up the issues around how that's not happening. Definitely, this is a time of transformations in relationships. Pluto is Lord of the underworld. And so with a Venus retrograde, Venus going retrograde is already Venus entering the underworld and going into an underworld journey. And so the fact that Venus is doing this conjoined to Pluto is kind of a double whammy. It's kind of like extra intense. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this cycle, once Venus finishes her retrograde, especially when Venus exits her shadow period, which is when she exits Capricorn, or exits the point where she stationed retrograde. That will be March 3rd. I almost guarantee there have been major transformations in your relationships, whether it's a romantic, intimate relationship or friendship with another person, or feminine energy, whether that's women or whoever. Pluto rules over secrets. So this might be a time where secrets are revealed in regards to relationships. Let's see. So I said before, Venus rules over beauty. So this might be a time where you might have deep questions around beauty ideals. Do you feel beautiful and attractive? Are you, expressing yourself in a way that feels beautiful, that feels attractive and empowering? What are your deeply rooted anxieties or worries or concerns around your attractiveness, around your ability to attract something to you, attract someone to you? I think I said this before, power struggles or conflicts between women. So just in general, like between women who are friends, there can definitely be some stuff that comes up. Also, deep questions around pleasure. Venus rules over pleasure and what brings us joy and what we love. It might be that the things that you love might not have felt as good lately, or might not have been as satisfying. So you might kind of be going through this cathartic experience of, rethinking or maybe purging habits, patterns, behaviors, actions, how you spend your time, like what might have felt satisfying and joyful before might not anymore. And, this might be a process of deeply excavating and unearthing what is joyful and pleasurable for you now and what no longer is. So, what brings pleasure and joy might be in need of reform. Venus retrograde always asks us, do you still love it? Do you still love what you do or what you normally do to bring about happiness? Once again, Venus is a planet about getting along, about connection, about compromise, about meeting the other person halfway. So truly, this is a question of how do we all get along? How do we all how do we consent to things in our lives? And what does consent even look like? That is very much so a part of this question. Okay, so those are some major themes and ideas around this Venus retrograde conjoined to Pluto. I hope that's helpful. And once again, this is going to be more specific depending on what house this is happening in for you, and also what other planets are being involved in your personal birth chart. On the same day, Sunday the 19th, the Sun in Sagittarius sextiles Jupiter. So this does make this energy or this time period a bit more uplifting, a bit more positive. There's belief that you can make it through, perhaps like inspired ideas, etc. Okay, and then moving on, Monday the 20th, Mercury in Capricorn makes a trine to Uranus in Taurus. Mercury is the planet of the mind. Uranus is a planet of innovation, revelation, revolution, and unexpected changes. Trines are positive aspects. So this might be a time period where you have innovative ideas around the future or around planning something. There might be support and ease between the two parts of your chart that contain Capricorn and Taurus. You might have some surprising or enlightening conversations or messages that come through that are positive or bring good news. And there might just be kind of an unexpected topic that comes up or news that comes through of some kind. Okay, so that is the 20th. Tuesday the 21st, the Sun heads into Capricorn, marking the winter solstice. So this is the beginning of winter. And this further highlights the Capricorn part of your chart. So the Capricorn part of your chart is already very much so activated, with Venus in Capricorn about to retrograde, conjoined with Pluto. Mercury just moved into Capricorn. So the Sun is also moving to Capricorn. So this is kind of an extra emphasis on Capricorn. And the Sun tends to illuminate and bring light to wherever it is in the chart. So it might even be around the time that the Sun comes and conjoins Venus and Pluto later on in the month, where some of these themes might be coming more to your conscious awareness, and you might have more aha moments or insights, or that's probably the time where all of the processing that you've been doing is there are results showing for that, basically. Okay, Friday the 24th, we have the final Saturn-Uranus square. This is huge. This is wrapping up a story that began at the beginning of 2021. So it was February 17th of this year, of 2021, where Saturn and Uranus made their first square. The second square, when they were retrograde, was June 14th. And so this is the third and final, and therefore the wrapping up of whatever this story has been for you. So let me break it down further. So Saturn rules over the structures in our lives, the systems we have in place, the bones of what we're doing. And it literally rules over the bones in the body. So it's like the structure, the system. It's also what you're committed to. It's what you are responsible for. It's kind of what roots you down and maybe even might feel like tying you down. Uranus is a planet, once again, of change, revelation, revolution, freedom. Very much so the opposite of Saturn. So squares, which is the aspect that these two have been engaging in, squares are of the nature of Mars, a planet about conflict, about action, about dynamism. It's not an easy aspect, right? So it's kind of like the structure and systems that we have in place in our life is coming up against maybe a deep need for freedom or innovation or change of some kind. So structures in our lives have been getting reformatted and innovated, and this could feel disorienting, right? Saturn also rules over what we fear, and so it could have been really scary to make some of these changes. But something's been needing to change, but in a slow and systematic way. Saturn won't let us escape our responsibilities and what we are committed for. There are consequences otherwise. If we don't listen to Saturn, there are consequences. Saturn rules over karma. However, it's okay and absolutely necessary to bring in new energy, to bring in new systems and structures, to innovate them, to progress them, right? So it's just that these two planetary archetypes and energies need to work together. So it has to be done, but in a slow, systematic way, right? That's kind of pleasing Saturn. However, change still needs to happen. That's pleasing the planet Uranus. And you might have been resisting this change all throughout 2021. And this might be the moment of a wrap up, or kind of the final move, the final decision. Might not be, also because, as Mars and Venus and the Sun have traveled through Scorpio, for instance, triggering this square, through opposition to Uranus and square to Saturn, that might have been a moment where a lot of this changes has been taking place, right? And that was kind of in October and November. But this is kind of a wrap up, a final wrap up. So you might have been resisting this change, or perhaps have been tempted to act out impulsively due to feeling tied down or heavy. So ask yourself, how can you let go of of any heaviness that might be lingering? How can you let go and kind of allow the new to come in while still taking care of what you need to take care of? That's kind of the balance with this energy. So once again, this process, whatever this is for you, and this is going to be more intense for some people over others, especially if you're a fixed sign. So if you are Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, or Leo, if you have your sun, your rising, your moon, or any of your planets in those signs, particularly between, I would say like 7 to 13 degrees, so kind of the middle part of those signs, then this is going to be more, and this has been more intense for you. You know, so it totally, you know, if you're a rising sign in the fixed signs or a midheaven, it's going to be more dynamic for you as well. And of course, this is the changes that are being asked of you, and also the responsibilities are going to be different depending on what house is being activated. So, you know, whatever house contains Aquarius and Taurus, those are the parts of the chart that are kind of being stressed to make these adjustments. And if you're curious about how this is landing for you in your life and in your chart, I'm definitely open for consultations. Okay, so Saturday the 25th is when Venus retrograde, right? She retrograded on the 19th. She conjoins Pluto exactly for the second time. She'll rejoin Pluto for the third time in direct motion in early March, like March 1st and kind of late February. Excuse me. Yeah, just that might be kind of a, you know, I want to say that it'll be like a heavy, it's still going to be kind of heavy with regards to these relationship issues and Venusian issues that I already mentioned. However, Sunday the 26th, Mercury in Capricorn sextiles Neptune in Pisces, and this is really uplifting and optimal and optimistic. It's really, you know, Mercury and Neptune combined is really about making a plan for a dream. Neptune ruling over dreams, Mercury and Capricorn ruling over planning things out, you know, getting all your T's in a row, or your ducks in a row, T's crossed, etc. And so I think this Mercury sextile to Neptune is going to help out this Venus-Pluto dynamic. And also the Venus-Pluto dynamic is nothing new, right? Like, yes, it's exact on the 25th on Christmas Day. However, we've been in this energy for a very long time. So it's kind of just a continuation of the themes that I mentioned before. Yeah, and once again, Venus is retrograde the 19th through January 29th, so December 19th through January 29th. This is when Venus goes into the underworld with regards to relationships and digs things out of the closet. Don't be surprised if conflicts come up in relationships and maybe compromises become more difficult. Don't be surprised if you start triggering people more often and more easily, specifically partners. This is a great time to learn tools such as nonviolent communication, and being able to speak your truth in a still, kind, and compassionate way, right? But still being firm in your truth. So, and you know, there might be an element whenever a planet goes retrograde, it's whatever that planet signifies, it's almost like those topics start to go backwards, right? They start to move backwards just as the planet is moving backwards. And I like to think of it as the planet giving us a second chance to do that part of our lives over again. We kind of get a second chance, which is kind of cool. So, you know, during Venus's retrograde, she's going to be going back over territory that she's already traveled through. And actually, let me just grab my ephemeris and I'll just see when she entered the shadow. So Venus is going to go all the way back to 11 degrees of Capricorn. So the period that she is revisiting, she first went over 11 degrees of Capricorn on November 18th. So between November 18th and December 18th, so about that month, that time period, whatever was happening for you in that time period, regarding all those Venusian things, and also depending on what house it's happening in, you know, Venus's retrograde through that territory is is reviewing that part of our life and that time period. And there might be a sense of going backwards, of things feeling like they're unraveling, of conflicts emerging, power dynamics, etc. But Venus is giving us a chance to do it again and better. So, you know, it's always whatever the planets bring us, it's always a gift. It's always for the purpose of our evolution. And at least that's what I believe. I hope that's helpful. And yeah, I'll be back in a couple weeks with another astrological update. And please reach out if you're interested in a consultation. Happy to do so. Otherwise, I hope you have a lovely holiday and next couple weeks. All right, bye.